So thank you for joining us today. My name is Manon Tissier, and I am the International Mobility Officer in UCD Global. I look after students going on exchange within Europe. So our session today is about exchange opportunities within Europe with a focus on options for French, German, and English language. So I will give you a brief overview of those options during the presentation, and then we'll have some testimonials from students who went on exchange last year. So I thought I would just start by giving you an overview of what is an Erasmus exchange, what do we mean by Erasmus exchange. So an Erasmus exchange is an agreement between two universities within Europe on a non-fee basis. So that means you would pay your tuition fee to UCD and it is waived as a host university. Very important to note, Erasmus specifically refers to exchanges within Europe. And also great news, there is funding available from the European Commission. Approximately 500 UCD students go on Erasmus each year. So we'll go first through our French options. Very important to note, if you study French or if you want to study through French, you can go to France, obviously, but don't forget you can also consider Belgium or Switzerland. So you would have many options in France. For example, French Guiana, not even just mainland France. If you're not a language student, you also have many options in either France, Belgium, or Switzerland. For example, in France, you could go to the Université Catholique de l'Ouest if you're studying sociology or psychology. You could go to the Université de Cergy-Pontoise. It's just outside of Paris, and that would be available to you if you are a political science or chemistry student. If you're interested in going to Lyon, you could either go to INSA Lyon if you're an engineer, or you could go to Lyon 2 if you study history. In Belgium, for example, if you're a politics student, you could go to the Free University of Brussels. And in Switzerland, we'll have options such as EPFL, the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, for engineers, for example. So the great thing about France, Belgium, or Switzerland is that you are still in Europe, but you would still experience a very different culture. The main language would not be English, and in France, for example, you would really have to immerse, but you could get by, for example, with English, I think, in Belgium or Switzerland. It is a great experience to be exposed through different language in your daily life. You could also easily explore different parts of Europe with a new group of friends through the train system, Flixbus. In terms of cost of living, Paris would be quite expensive, but other cities in France would be really affordable. So just think of all the cheap croissants you could have in France. And Switzerland would be more on the expensive side, I'd say, and Belgium would be, I think, medium priced. Onto our German options now. If you want to study, if you're studying German or would like to study through German, you could either go to Germany, Austria, but also Switzerland. In terms of options, if you're an architect, you could go to TU Vienna in Austria. You could go to the University of Vienna for history or history of arts or language students. And if you study German, you could also go to Graz University. For Germany, you could go to the University of Marburg if you're studying Celtic studies, to Heinrich Heine University for History of Art, Osnabrück University for Computer Science, or TU Munich for Engineers. If you're more interested in going to Switzerland, the good news is that if you're an architect, you can go to Hochschule Luzern or to the University of Luzern if you're studying philosophy, politics, or economics. And our architect friends out there can also go to Liechtenstein. Again, the language will most probably be not English in your daily life. You need to know some German, even though Switzerland have different national languages, so you could go by with English or French or German or Italian. And being on mainland Europe also gives you the opportunity to easily travel again from one country to the next. The train system in Europe is quite good. From Switzerland, for example, you could easily get to Germany, France, and Italy. In terms of cost of living, Dublin is generally quite expensive, so you'll find out that in most cases it will be more affordable, especially if you go to Germany or Austria. And again, as I said before, Switzerland would be a little bit more expensive. For those of you who are not considering studying through French or German, the good news is that if you're interested in English options, you pretty much have options throughout the rest of Europe. So you would think, of course, that if you want to study through English, the UK would be your first choice, but have you considered perhaps the east of Europe? So if you're a classic student, that you would have options in Croatia, Cyprus. If you're studying classics, music, politics, or philosophy, you could go to Czech Republic. If you study history or sociology, you could also go to Turkey, for example. A great option within Europe is the Netherlands. Sorry about that. You could go to Amsterdam for English and history, for example, or Groningen if you study social sciences, or TU Delft if you're an architect. Good thing to know is that in the Netherlands, there is even a 3-country point. That's a spot where you can stand in 3 countries at the same time: Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. And finally, the UK. So the UK is actually an interesting option as it's quite close, but it still gives you that exchange experience feel. It's comfortable, but it still exposes you to, going through an exchange experience, meeting a new group of friends, trips and travels. The only unknown at the moment is, of course, Brexit, but as it stands, the UK is still available for Erasmus in 21-22. If you're a sociology student, for example, you could go to Queen's University Belfast or to Manchester Metropolitan University. And I think we can all say that the UK is definitely an interesting place to be a sociologist next year. History students can also go to University College London, for example, or Strathclyde in Glasgow. In terms of cost of living, Eastern Europe would definitely be more affordable. There are great websites out there, such as Numbeo. I think we shared that with you during the first session. I can put the link at the end of this session as well, where you can check the difference in cost of living between Dublin and other cities in Europe. And if you go through Numbeo, you'll see that half a liter of beer on tap in Dublin is $5.50, but it's $1.55 in Prague. So, And just keep in mind that generally capital cities in Europe are quite expensive. If you're thinking of going to the Netherlands, for example, Amsterdam might be quite pricey. And also, especially if you still live at home in Dublin, consider that the accommodation costs will have to be taken into account in your exchange budget. Going on exchange is a great opportunity for you to complement your UCD degree with a semester or a year at one of the universities in this region to experience a very different educational system. So when picking a destination, it's important to consider the education system, as all universities will have a different way of teaching. The terminology may differ. While some universities will talk about modules or courses or even exams in Italy, other universities will call it in a different way. They could, call the trimester semesters or blocks, and of course your module registration will be different, and so will be the academic calendar. In terms of class size and format, you could have big lectures in France, for example, in huge lecture theaters, or small interactive groups where participation is required. And of course, you need to check what modules are on offer. At the moment, you wouldn't have the course list for 21-22, but it's a good idea just to go through this year's course catalog to check what is on offer. You would also experience different forms of assessment while on exchange, from just one exam with open questions or multiple choice exams at the end of the term to midterm papers, participation in assignments throughout the term. I went on exchange myself. I was studying in France, and I went on exchange to the UK. And one of the things that really surprised me the most was the difference in assignments. In France, you would have those big exams at the end of the semester, and in the UK, you would have essays throughout the semester, and I just thought that was a big change for me. And finally, the expectations from your lecturers and the interaction you'll have with them may be different from the ones you have in UCD. So, and all of this could even differ within the same university. So it's hard to always know, but do take that into account and try and find out in your research what you think is the most suitable destination with the information you have. So as part of our Erasmus destination, we have some Erasmus open places. These are agreements with certain universities in Europe where there is more flexibility with courses. That means that they're not subject specific. Depending on your college or your school, you may only be able to apply to some of them. So you'll see here that the arts and humanities and social sciences student would have more choices, for example. But if you're a science or an engineering student, you could go to the University of Nottingham, Edinburgh, or Birmingham in the UK. Please note that exceptions do apply depending on what you're studying. So even if it says here that Lund University is available for arts and humanities and social sciences, there may be exceptions depending on your school. The other Erasmus destinations are subject-specific agreements. So the list will be updated in the next weeks on our website, and you can then review the options you have available. You also have an academic contact within your school. This is the contact person students can reach out to for queries about exchange. You will have their names on our website. We're currently updating them. So you can reach out to them as they're a great source of information and inspiration. At the moment, do your own research and wait a bit until you have your options a bit more lined up to reach out to them. And your academic contact will be the person who approves the modules you will take while you're on exchange. So you've been to our talks this month and you're interested in applying on exchange. What's the next steps? First one is to research your options. Again, check our website. Check also your college website. If you're a social sciences student, for example, your own college has great resources on the website where you can check what options are available depending on your combination. And the second step is to check really the university's website or their social media. First, in terms of language, or courses offered through English. If not, can you speak the language well enough to follow lectures, do assignments, and take exams? Then in terms of course choice, make sure that a wide range of courses in your major are offered. Outside of arts and social science, for example, you will need to match your UCD courses. Also look into the class formats and the assessment methods and their academic calendar. And finally, the location. Is it in a big city, in a small town, in a rural setting? What are their accommodation options available? If there's in-campus accommodation, how expensive is it? And please note that we do not help you with finding accommodation. So the accommodation is something you'll have to find on your own. You can also check the university's social media channel, maybe their Facebook or Instagram, because I think that will give you a great idea of what to expect there too. Something important at this point, do not contact a partner university you're interested in yet with any questions. If you would like more information about a particular university, do check their website. Some advice we'll have for you really is to look into different countries and cities. Really go and see if you think it will be a good fit for you, or if you're looking for an added challenge, will this give you that challenge? So for example, if you're looking to master a new language, is it the right fit for you? Don't focus on just one destination. Broaden your horizon and get excited about multiple destinations. At the end of the day, really, it doesn't matter where you go. I think it will still be a great experience, but it's good to know what your preferred options are. The next step would be to calculate your finances. So as I mentioned, there are some great tools to check out the cost of living in different cities. Bear in mind that the approximate cost of living for an Erasmus exchange is about 9,000 euros per year. So if you only go for a semester, that would be cheaper. Your tuition fee is paid to UCD and is waived at the partner university. But if you are adding a year to your degree to obtain a BA International, for example, it does mean that an extra year of UCD tuition fee is added. So just take that into account. And finally, the Erasmus grant is available for students going inside Europe. So this is a grant contributing towards your living costs. And here I have to insist, it's not meant to cover all your costs. So do bear in mind that you will still have to self-fund for part or all of your exchange. For 2020-21, the grants are between 320 and 350 euros per month. And you're usually automatically eligible when going on exchange within Europe. But if you, let's say, if you're a non-EU student and you're in receipt of a scholarship of some form, do get in touch so that we can check that it's not going against the Erasmus grant. And finally, you will not get an Erasmus grant if you do go to Switzerland, but they do have their own grant scheme, so you will get further information about that. And something I'd like to mention, if you're a student with a disability, there is additional funding that may be eligible for through Erasmus exchange. So now I'd like to take some time and give the floor to our peer advisors.
So hi everyone, I'm Emma and I'm studying a BA in English and Social Computing. So I went to the Sorbonne University in Paris for the full year, and I mainly studied English literature modules, but I also took a few French language modules. So this was definitely one of the best decisions I ever made. I mainly prepared by reading as much as possible and just researching the university and Paris itself. And so even though I faced a few challenges during the year, I still ended up having like an amazing time and I met really great friends. So it's difficult to pinpoint just one best moment, but some of my favorite memories are probably just when me and my friends organized like impromptu nights out and just decided to explore Paris for the day. So it was really easy to get around. The metros and public transport is just so quick and reliable. So like, for example, we went to a lot of concerts, including Pitchfork Music Festival, which is held in Paris. And so we also went to a lot of museums. So in most European countries, all the museums are like free for students or people aged under 26. So I really recommend taking advantage of this. You can go to a different museum almost every day in Paris. There's just a lot to do. So I did mention that I faced like a few challenges during the year. So the biggest of this was probably just administration. Like signing up for modules was a bit awkward because they don't really give Erasmus students online registration. So yeah, that was a bit stressful. But that being said, like it really helped make friends with all the other Erasmus students. And so yeah, that was just a great bonding experience. So yeah, there's also similar challenges, like from the slides you can see, there's just a lot of paperwork. Like when I set up the bank, I got like a massive stack of paperwork. It was a bit insane, but and yeah, sorry. And also there was a few strikes while I was there as well, just being France. So I think like the bin men and also firemen went on strike, but also public transport. That was basically brought to a halt for all of December. So all of my Christmas exams were cancelled the year I was there. So I guess that gave me a taste for what was to come. But yeah, in all, like, just keep in touch with what's happening in the city and you should be fine. And so yeah, I really enjoyed my time on Erasmus. And I found a lot of the classes that I took were really, really interesting. And the lectures were so amazing. And like, for example, a lot of the books I read for the classes mentioned a lot of the roads we walked on and the cafes we went to. So yeah, it was very surreal. So Paris is a great city and I learned a lot of conversational French as well. So yeah, I can't wait to go back and visit. So overall, the main thing is just, I say, go for it and just make the most of your Erasmus.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, I think we can all agree that France and strikes do go hand in hand, and I must apologize as a French person myself. I remember trying to get home last year around Christmas time. It was quite
it was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, and yeah, paperwork. We do love our paperwork. But I mean, if you go on Erasmus, it's kind of part of the journey, isn't it? You know, when
exactly,
you try to get your grant and everything.
Yeah.
Get everything sorted. And how did you feel about the language? Was it hard? Like, did you have any French beforehand, or?
Yeah, it was a bit challenging. I suppose I had like Leaving Cert French. So I just like the summer before I kind of did a refresher. And I also did like when I got there, they offered intensive courses for the first week. So I did one of those as well. So just getting back into it, and just from talking to people, you get kind of used to it again. But I thought it was really cool. Like, I'm glad I did it. So yeah.
Thank you. And Owen, do you think we can go with you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Perfect.
Perfect. Sorry about that. So I'm Owen. I went on exchange to EPFL in Switzerland. That's French-speaking Switzerland for the full year last year. And I would say even with like the bit of disruption at the end because of COVID and everything, it would still probably be, I would say, the most worthwhile thing I did in college. So I did that as part of the engineering program. And for example, even now, you know, interviewing for jobs and that sort of thing, it's something that I'd say comes up every single time. You know, it's something that I think employers really like to hear. And even I have friends who went on exchange too, and who will be applying for, let's say, master's programs. And for them too, it's something that, you know, they're really happy to have done. So one thing I think that can put people off going to Switzerland for exchange, or what scared me at the start, was the prospect of the cost of living. Actually, the cost of living I found to be way more affordable than Dublin for me in particular, because your main difference is going to be rent. And luckily for me, you know, the university had would help find accommodation. So UCD won't do that for you, obviously, but your host university, there's a good chance that they have resources to help you find somewhere to stay. That was the case for me. And I ended up paying far less than I would have for rent in Dublin. I think it's, in terms of everything else associated with cost of living, you're actually looking at relatively similar prices. I say one of the great things about being in a place like Switzerland or, you know, Germany, France is the train networks. It's really very different to flying in terms of how quickly and how conveniently you can go to different places, and how like robust and, you know, the variety of places you can go just through train. I guess there's another thing that I think if you're considering going on exchange, you should look at as well, is, as was mentioned, like the difference in grading and assessment. I found in Switzerland it was similar to what you described in France, where there are big exams at the end and very little done in terms of continuous assessment. So that's just something you should be prepared for going abroad, is knowing, you know, the amount of work you might have to consistently put in, and also the difference in grading. For example, where I was, you know, in UCD, often you have a pass mark of 40%. I had a pass mark of 70%. So there might be a bit of a more comprehensive knowledge of a topic required to do well in a module than you might be used to, even though the questions might be of relatively similar difficulty. But yeah, overall, it's definitely the thing I've done in university that was the most worthwhile. I definitely recommend going on exchange. And also, I think one of the resources you should really look into is, and what was really helpful for me was, there was a guy from the year above me that my exchange coordinator put me in touch with, who had been in the same place the year before. And he was able to help me with everything from, you know, assessment, you know, understanding how that worked, you know, maybe helping me, you know where would be a good place to get the accommodation, maybe what the distances are between accommodation and campus. And every single little question like that, you'll find you can have a lot of support if you ask, you know, your exchange coordinator, or people your exchange coordinator can put you in touch with who were in your position.
Yeah. No, that's thank you for that. That's great. Sorry. I was gonna ask you, as an engineer, what did you feel, how did you feel that was useful for you? Because I think students sometimes think Erasmus is only, for students who study languages.
It was, well, I did study partly where I was at EPFL. They had a lot of courses in English and a lot of courses in French. So I did a mix of both. And I mean, I didn't personally have a problem. I didn't have a problem really with my standard of French. I don't think the guy in the year before me did either. But it's really, when you're talking to, for example, employers, or you're talking to professors, or just talking in general, there's a huge number of things you can discuss with people, about your experience and about what was different. Whether that's in a professional context or just relating about it in general, that I think it's, no matter what program you're in, it can be hugely beneficial. And you're going to follow the same curriculum as you would in UCD, so you don't lose anything in terms of what you're studying. You can study the exact same things, and there'll be a couple of differences, but you really lose nothing, I think, no matter what program you're in, and you only gain all the positive experiences that are sort of universal.
Great, thank you. And I think we'll go with Melanie now.
So I did my exchange last year. I study German and economics at UCD. It's a joint major arts degree. And I went to Germany with the German department, and but I also got the opportunity to study a few modules in economics as well, which was great, because with the German department, you don't have to take specific modules, you just have to take a specific number of modules. So that was really nice, that it gave you a bit of freedom. And the reason I chose Leipzig over other German cities was, it was, when I did research about it, like, it was a really big student city, like there was a lot of students living in this city. It was also really affordable, like my Erasmus grant basically covered my rent for the year, which made it like much easier to live there. And also the train connections in Germany are amazing, so you can travel all around Germany by train, and like travel on the weekend, or go on holidays with some friends that you make on your Erasmus, and you have a lot of freedom and flexibility. Obviously COVID has impacted that now, but there is still a lot of options for people who want to travel in Europe. So the Erasmus experience, like, there's so much to be had out of it. I primarily went there to learn a language, but I think one thing everyone gets out of it is a sense of independence, and you get to experience an entirely new culture, and you kind of feel like first year in the college again, because you're doing everything new again, but you also have to get to know the way of life in that country, and that's really, really interesting and also rewarding. And you have a sense of like exploring and discovering a new city or a new place. Then obviously there was a lot of difficulties. Like, everyone is going to have challenges when you have to find out everything new and for the first time. But like, one thing I found hard was there's also a lot of bureaucracy in Germany, which means you have to contact a lot of people and do a lot of paperwork when you join the university or open a bank account. But this actually challenged my German skill as well, because like, a lot of people will give you the option to do it through English, which means if you're not studying a language, you will get on fine. But if you want to study the language, you have to kind of ask people to speak your target language, and they will. And like, you can get a lot out of even these difficult experiences that you don't want to do. You can still turn them in your favor. Like, these two pictures here, one is from Oktoberfest in Leipzig, which would be very small compared to the Munich one, but it was very nice all the same. And the other picture is a Erasmus trip to the, what are they called? The Switzerland of Saxony, which is like a mountain range near Leipzig. And the Erasmus program, or the Erasmus coordinators did organize a lot of Erasmus activities, which I would highly recommend taking part in, because you will meet a lot of people on them, and like it's a really good point of contact if you need help while you're on Erasmus, like to meet these people from the Erasmus department in your host university. Also in Germany, I loved cycling everywhere. Like that was such a new thing for me. It's impossible to cycle in Dublin. It's so dangerous, but like it was amazing to discover the city and cycle everywhere. And I think a lot of cities in Germany would be similar. What else? Like another challenge in Germany was finding clothes for the winter, because I had never been anywhere so cold in the winter. But like that was interesting as well. Like these pictures are, one is from an art gallery, and there is a lot of free art exhibitions. Like Emma said, like it's so interesting, and you kind of get a feel for the culture when you go to an art museum, and it costs you nothing, and you can take nice pictures as well. Like I would encourage people to go on, like even though you might feel you might be restricted in COVID times, the everyday immersion in the culture is just something you can't get anywhere else. Like to travel to a new place and do everything for yourself and meet a lot of new people from different cultures, it really builds your self-confidence as well. And like for me, it kind of opened my eyes to maybe living in Europe in the future. And it definitely got me interested in what I might do after my degree if I want to live or work or study in Europe. Like it gives you a real taste of that. And yeah, I really liked my Erasmus. Like if you're a bit on the fence about it, I would kind of just go for it, because there's so much experience to be had. There's like you can do networking while you were there. Like as my city was quite a student city, like you could actually get involved in student activities really, really easily. Like we even had the Fridays for Future marches that would take up the whole city on a Friday evening. Everyone would be there, and like many other things. It was really nice. I would recommend to talk to people who have been on Erasmus. And like Owen said, like it's good if you can get in contact with someone who's been to the city that you're interested in, because it's really hard to find the information about the university sometimes. So it's great to get in contact with someone who's been there, because not all the information's available and it can be a bit overwhelming to find on your own. So I would recommend to just not be shy and put yourself forward and make contact with people. People are so happy to help. Yeah.
Quickly, your timeline. So you may have seen that in our first presentation. So it's what to expect in the next few months, you know. So this month we'll have information talks, and you will have to gather information about exchange options. In November, we'll have virtual office hours. So that's Lisa Kehoe, who looks after non-EU exchange, and myself, where you can just, you know, book an appointment with us online and chat to us about your options. We'll have a virtual exchange fair on the 4th of November. The application will open mid-November, and that will run up till the 22nd of January. We may confirm that date with you. And then the selection will be on a rolling basis, and you'll know by the 15th of March if you've been selected and where you're going. And finally, we'll have a number of pre-departure sessions between February and April. So the first sessions will be mainly for students who will be going to non-EU destinations, and then we'll have more for the ones that are going on Erasmus. And finally, you have our contact here. So if you want to get in touch with me, if you have any questions, you can do so by contacting outgoing Erasmus at ucd.ie, and then you can contact Lisa at the email there. If you're an agriculture, business, law, or even DN 700, so that's social sciences student, you have specific contacts in your colleges. And you can attend all the talks this month, even if you're not sure if you want to go on non-EU exchange or Erasmus, you're not limited. Just do consider all your options. And I think we still have a bit of time, so I can take a few questions. So I see a question here from Brandon. Do you apply with year 1 GPA or year 2? That's actually an average GPA. So we take your results from year 1 and some of your results from year 2. Next question. If the university says it has a language requirement, would you need to get that before leaving or not? Usually if there's a language requirement, chances are you need to meet that because it's mainly to check that you're able to take the courses. So if you want to go to France but you don't speak any French, there's actually no point in you going there, and struggling with classes, because you go on exchange to study something, like there's the whole experience, but I mean, if you can't get any of the classes, a possibility for you would be perhaps to consider if you can take language classes before going. That's something, we can talk about, but usually, yeah, you would need to meet the requirements, otherwise you may not be accepted. Are there a set number of students that each university will take? So yes, there are a number of places available by partner, and you'll see, so the student with the best GPA will get the place. If the universities are not on the UCD global website for your school, but are on the open list you showed earlier, can you still choose one of those? So yeah, Erasmus open places are open to almost all the students. And as I said, there are some requirements that you need to meet, and depending on your college, you may not apply for all of them. Do you know when all of the study abroad options for different schools will be completely updated? By the end of our exchange information talks, you should have a complete list on our website, and also do check your college website, because they'll also update the list. Does it cost money to apply to schools, or is it free to apply? So it doesn't cost any money to apply for Erasmus. As I said, you do pay your tuition fee to UCD, and you don't pay any fees to the host university. The only exception, and I think Melanie, you may confirm that for me, for German universities, you may have a small fee to pay, a semester fee, where you pay some insurance and like a social contribution and a transport card.
Yeah, the semester fee is to pay like a small student charge. I think the student charge for me was like 13 euros or something. And altogether though, it was 200 euros, but it paid for all of your public transport, not just in the city, but in the region. So you didn't have to pay any public transport for the year basically, unless you were going farther. And I know the student like this semester fee in Germany wouldn't be more than 200. Some people only pay 100 or 70 euros. Like, it's not more than 200.
Okay, thank you.